Senator Klobuchar, are you willing to use every lever of power at your disposal as a member of the minority party to stop what is happening here, up to and including a government shutdown?
Right now, we are focused on getting ICE out of this state. And of course, we will use every lever that we have.
All right. Well, back with us is U.S. Chad Wolf. I'm sorry, IS. Sorry about that, Chad. Former acting secretary of Homeland Security. He's also the America First Policy Institute chair of Homeland Security. Chad, how will a government shutdown affect ICE and Border Patrol agents who are currently in the streets where this violence is taking place? Will this make them even less safe?
It could possibly make them less safe, but here's what it won't do. It won't deter them from doing their mission. They have resources there at the department. Obviously, they have the one big beautiful bill that was passed gave both Border Patrol and ICE a significant amount of resources. They'll be on a continuing resolution, most likely. If the government shuts down, most of them will be exempt, making sure that they're continuing to carry out national security and taking criminals off the street. But think about this for a minute, that, you know, Democrats want to shut down the government. So they want to hurt a variety of federal workers and the American people because ICE is doing its job that Congress told them to do. It's absolutely bizarre, the rationale and how they go about thinking here. Instead of saying, hey, let's pass a set of reforms to ICE, or let's try to get that through the Senate. I don't think it'll make it. Let's try to do all these things. All they can come up with is we're going to shut the government down.
Yeah, Chad, they once tried to use the term reimagine ICE or reimagine policing. What they meant by that is we don't want ICE and we don't want policing. I think that was pretty clear to figure out, certainly under the Biden administration. But that's what I want to speak to right now, because there's a lot of emotion in this country right now, and rightfully so. Anytime you have American citizens that are killed for whatever reason, it's a horrible circumstance and a tragedy. But I want to remind folks what happens when ICE, when Border Patrol, when they're not allowed to do their job, when they're essentially neutered, as we saw under the Biden administration. Can you remind folks what that looks like for them in their communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 4 years under President Biden, you had millions, over 10 to 12 million illegal aliens streaming across the southern border and released into American communities. And you didn't know where they went, right? You didn't know who they were because they weren't vetted. And you had TDA, you had all sorts of criminals in these communities committing horrible acts that the Biden administration just sat there and said, well, we've kind of done everything that we can. We can't really do this. This is how this operates. And the Trump administration said, obviously, no. And President Trump ran on this issue. The American people said, we don't want, another 4 years of an open border. So as they've shut the border down in the first year of the Trump second term, the hard part now is going into communities and removing folks that don't have a legal right to be here in the United States, criminal illegal aliens and others. And so this is the hard job, but this is what is the result of a historic crisis under President Biden. I would say it was ineptitude, but I think it was more on purpose than anything else. And that's the wrong that the Trump administration is trying to make right.
Chad, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you were the DHS secretary, or even say President Donald Trump, what happens next in Minneapolis is your discretion, your decision. What do you do? Do you double down?
Yeah.
Do you continue as normal? Regardless of who's at fault, it doesn't look like Walz or Fry are backing down in their rhetoric. It doesn't look like protesters are going home quietly, and people keep showing up and creating dangerous situations that end in death. When I say people, I mean agitators. What do you do?
Well, here's what I probably do. And again, I don't know if this has already been done or not. I pick up the phone, I'll call the governor, and I'll call the mayor. And I'll say, you've made it very clear that you want ICE out of your state. ICE is not going anywhere, but I can give you a scenario where we can withdraw the vast majority of DHS resources there, keeping a small amount to still do its job. And here's what that looks like. You've got a surge in Minneapolis police, state police, and maybe even National Guard to make sure that ICE officers are fully protected. You need to open your jails and let us come in there and remove dangerous criminals so that we don't have to go into neighborhoods. I would give them a list of things that need to occur And if all those things occur and over a course of several days or maybe even a week or two, if we saw the cooperation and we saw the violence start to go down, I think DHS would be in a place to say, okay, we can withdraw 50% of our force there, because all they're really doing is crowd control. So if Minneapolis police or state police wants to do that job, that's great. We've been asking them to do that. And so I give them a way to de-escalate this, but the way is they are actually going to have to do some things. They can't just shout into the wind saying ICE needs to leave the state. ICE is not going to do that. They have a job, and they're going to stay there and do that job.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.